This Sunday we're going to be continuing our sermon series on John chapter 12, and particularly we're going to be looking at verses 24 and 25 that I'm going to read for you now. I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed, but if it dies, it produces many seeds. The man who loves his life will lose it, while the man who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. And I found that particularly ominous, that last bit about loving life and losing it, and hating life to find eternal life. And I thought that was pretty frightening. And we're familiar with this kind of saying because a similar saying is recorded in all of the Gospels about we must lose life in order to find life. And it's so familiar that I fear that we don't really pause to really let the meaning of it sink in. And I really struggled with what the meaning of it would be, because it sounds pretty risky. So what we're going to do this Sunday is ask the question, what is Jesus trying to tell us in saying that we have to hate life in order to gain eternal life? So part of what I did for that was to kind of step back a little bit and say, okay, what is God doing? What is God doing in this story? And Jesus talks about being glorified. So God is glorifying. And so what does that mean? So I started kind of digging around and discovered that that the word glory, glorify, that's used implies dignity and worth. And so to bring glory or to glorify is to give the gift of dignity and worth. And then I decided to go back and look in the First Testament or the Old Testament and at what glorify could mean there. And the word that is translated as glory or glorify can also be translated as abundance. So immediately I kind of started to hear this story going back to the Exodus story about God giving the abundant gift of dignity and worth, which is what the rescue of Israel from slavery in Egypt is about, giving them dignity and worth. And so that's kind of the background. And I think we have to have, we'll talk about that more on Sunday, but we have to have that as the foundation for understanding what Jesus is talking about when he suggests that we need to lose life or hate life in order to gain eternal life. So that's what we'll be talking about. And also what's rattling around in my head, and I'm going to bring into the sermon, is I've been watching the news and reading the stories about a family from Pakistan that came all the way to the United States to give some testimony before Congress about drone warfare, and the matriarch of the family was killed in a drone strike. And she was a mother and grandmother and not a terrorist. So they came to give some testimony to Congress, and 5 congressmen showed up to listen to this testimony. I'm concerned about the use of drones, specifically the cost of innocent life. And I'm concerned about the fact that this family came all the way to the United States, to Congress, to tell their story, and they were not, in my estimation, given the gift of dignity or worth to even be listened to. And my fear is that's kind of on a theoretical level anyway. That's part of what's really disturbing about drone warfare, is that we are so far removed, and it is so secret that the worth of life seems to have been forgotten. And as Christians, at least part of what I'm going to be suggesting in this sermon is that part of what Jesus is telling us is this story of God who tirelessly works to give the gift of dignity and worth to all creation, and that we who would follow Jesus, who would call ourselves his disciples, are drawn into that mission of abundantly giving the gift of dignity and worth to others, especially those who are dispossessed, oppressed, marginalized. So that's this Sunday, and I hope that we will see you at 10 a.m.